why do I feel that Mr. Barber needs to buy a dictionary? And why is it that not one single judge has seen through Mr. Barber's bullshit? Are we now hiring low IQ people for the bench? I don't think so. I think they all saw it and knew it for what it was. An attempt by the Crown Prosecutor to delay and distract the court from this malicious and illegal attempt to prosecute Dan for past acts that upset or inconvenienced the RCMP. And the judiciary chose to look the other way. Now, a quote from the great author William Shakespeare. Mr. Barber, the prosecutor doth protest too much, methinks.
Calling number 1 from your Honor's adult list, the matter of Dan.
Okay.
Good morning, Judge Mrozinski.
Judges really hate it when you say their name in court.
Yes, good morning, Your Honor. It's Nicholas Barber for the Crown on the telephone.
I'm Dan.
Dan.
Good morning.
What's your first name? Dan?
Dan.
Dan. Okay.
Yeah, good morning, Judge Mrozinski.
Okay. Good morning. All right. So what's happening today?
Thank you, Your Honor. We've asked for a pre-trial conference ahead of the scheduled trial date just to deal with a couple of outstanding matters, or at least in the Crown's respectful submission, some outstanding matters. And I could just list those off for you if you wish.
That would be good because I don't know what they are, so yes.
Okay. So there was an issue with Dan not having all the disclosure that he wanted. I think that it has been remedied at this point, but we'd ask that Dan just indicate on the record whether that's correct or not. And then the second thing is that Dan had subpoenaed about 10, I think it was 10 police members from around the Colwood, Victoria area.
This is not true. I did not subpoena 10 police members from all over the Colwood, Victoria area.
For the trial, and those subpoenas now are no good, because we've switched the trial date, but I wanted to canvass with the court and Dan. Certainly, he is unrepresented. So we have no intention of trying to get in the way of his defense. However, I can't see why 10 police officers who were not involved with the current charge are relevant in any way to Dan's defense. That being said, there may be some reason, but what I'd like to avoid, if possible, is having 10 police officers sitting around for the day of trial and for no purpose or, you know?
Right. Ken, so I guess I have a sense from the charge what is alleged to have occurred. But can you just tell me so that I can determine or at least help Dan out with the relevance of those witnesses?
Yes, I think that's an excellent idea. So, Your Honor, the allegations are that Dan was videotaping outside of the detachment. Actually, what does the charge indicate?
This guy has no idea what he's doing.
The West Shore detachment is indicated there, Your Honor.
Okay. So he was videotaping?
Videotaping comings and goings of police officers and police.
So Mr. Barber is actually reading directly off of a false police narrative that was started in 2015, 2016. And he has no idea what he's talking about. He's just reading the script.
Police approached him and asked him what he was doing, and he refused to cooperate with them. And Dan is well known to the police, having caused various kinds of problems in the past at various detachments and members' homes and that sort of thing.
Causing problems at detachments and members' homes? I hope you got some dates on that. It's also worth noting, too, these three police officers that arrested me, they had no idea who I was. No idea until they forced me to ID myself. They had no idea who I was.
So there were concerns about what Dan's intentions were. He claims that he's part of a media company or media group, which is certainly not any kind of media that you would know.
I never claimed to be part of a media group or a media company. Never.
I think it's more his own, sort of civil social media, which is fine, but the problem for Dan is that because he's continually doing this, and on this specific date, July 25th, refused to identify himself or communicate, really, what he was doing and why it interfered with the detachment, both civilian and regular members.
Because I'm continuously doing this. And I refused to communicate what I was doing and why. Can you imagine giving a courtesy notice about what you're doing, why, and how long you're going to be there and what you're going to be doing, and then they arrest you because you didn't communicate what you were doing there or why? Interfered with both civilian and regular members. Yeah, so remember that when you go there and you zoom in on your the most photogenic sign on the most publicly viewable side of their building. Remember that when you zoom in on that, you're interfering with civilian and regular members. So don't do that.
So we don't, as the Crown, just for Dan's sake, civil social media, citizen investigators of different public interest things is great.
Those citizen investigators are great. We could prosecute them and fill our time slot calendars with people to prosecute just because we got citizen investigators. It's great.
But you have to do it in a way that doesn't encroach on the lawful operation of, whether it's the police or something else.
Yeah, but you got to do it in a way that doesn't encroach on the lawful operation of, whether it's police or something else.
Okay. So the Crown's witnesses are going to be presumably police or someone who saw this occurring, and they'll presumably identify Dan as the person doing it, and then it'll be a question of legal argument whether that constitutes the offense of obstruction or interference, contrary to Section 430 subsection 1 of the Criminal Code, and perhaps
Yes.
Dan will say it doesn't because it's free speech or something like that.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, exactly. We're prosecuting Dan for free speech. Yes, exactly.
And, Your Honor, because he's unrepresented, I want to avoid a whole bunch of members having to come off the street and sit around the court. That's one thing. But also, it would be good for Dan to speak to a lawyer because I don't think, strategically, if you just look at it that way, that any of that is going to help him.
Well, I'll speak to Dan, but...
Yes. Okay.
Okay. So what's your third issue?
Sorry, the third issue was...
So you talked about disclosure, and you need some confirmation that that's done. There's the subpoenas, which are not good now, but we'll talk about whether they're necessary or all of them are. And then I think you said you had 3 issues. But if you don't, that's fine.
I'll just double-check through this, Your Honor. Oh, there was. Yes, thank you, Your Honor. So there's an officer that we Corporal Kundu-Thomsen. This was set out in our original notice to adjourn the trial. Mr. or Corporal Kundu-Thomsen has been transferred to Ontario, and we're making an application that he testify by video.
Sure. Yes. And so what is his evidence going to be?
He's one of the primary witnesses who dealt with Dan outside of the detachment.
He's the primary witness. He's the sole complainant. He's the victim. He's the arresting officer. He's the guy that seized all 4 cameras and a cell phone. He's the guy that put this prosecution in motion. No other police officer ever said I had to identify myself or I'd be criminally prosecuted. Just him.
I think he was also perhaps civilly sued by Dan after the fact.
And now it's really odd that a prosecutor would bring up that he was perhaps civilly sued. That means that the prosecutor either is using their court computer system inappropriately, or the prosecutor or some prosecuting office or the police themselves are actually going through the proper channels and actually paying a fee to follow certain people's lawsuits. Because on this day, September 5th, 2019, I had not made that public, and I certainly didn't tell any of them about it. So it's odd that a prosecutor would mention that in a criminal proceeding.
Dan is, yes, rather.
So he's been transferred to Ontario. When did he get transferred?
Shortly after this incident, as I understand it.
Oh no, you don't understand it. Actually, you just lied. LinkedIn account, anyone? He was transferred a year after this incident, not shortly after.
So are you making that application today, or are you just notifying Dan that you're making that application?
Well, I'd like to make it today. Dan is there. It's been somewhat difficult getting these things lined up with him, and yes.
That's funny, you're right. It has been difficult getting things lined up with you when you don't respond to 4 letters.
I'd like to make that application today. If he wants more information or something else, I can certainly come back on another day.
Oh yeah, I'd like to come back on another day where I have to take another day off working and go for an entire work day unpaid. Yeah, I'd love to do that.
But I'd like to deal with that today if possible.
And when's the trial date?
I believe it's been rescheduled for March.
Okay, 2019 or 2020?
Hear this judge, she's like shook. This is the first time this judge has heard the calendar year 2020. She's like, March 2019? how can we? She's in shock. She's never heard 2020 before. That's how I know that they're just screwing with me. They made me wait 17 months for trial. Here we are, September 2019, and this judge is like, "Oh, what March 2019, 2020?" She's in shock. Ain't never heard 2020 before. Guarantee you, this March 2020 date was the first thing scheduled for 2020 in that registry.
March 3rd, 2020, Your Honor.
March 3rd.
March 3rd, 2020. Okay. So we've got some time. All right.
We do.
Okay. Let me speak, then, to Mr. Is that the issues, then, for the Crown?
Yes, but generally. There's other sort of collateral issues that I think will arise, but we can't probably deal with those today.
Sure. Well, let me ask Dan, then. Dan, please stand up, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. For once, I mostly agree.
So you're dressed for court today, eh?
Yeah. It's hot out.
Not really, but okay.
Ever had the judge make fun of your clothes? So I was dressed for a hot day because it was a hot day. September 5th. It was a hot day. Judge makes fun of my clothes. Obviously trying to get a reaction out of me.
Finally, for once, I mostly agree with Mr. Barber with everything you just said.
Let's talk about disclosure first.
Yeah. So I have some notes that I wrote. I just want to make sure I didn't leave out any details.
So the majority of these notes are things like the policies that the prosecutor is not following, Canadian case law that the prosecutor is just completely in reckless disregard of. And I just want to warn this judge that I'm going to be referring to those.
Uh-huh. Well, I don't need a big length of notes.
Yeah.
The first question is, Dan, there was an issue around disclosure and
Yes.
apparently you've had some disclosure. Can you confirm for me today whether there's any other disclosure that you need?
I haven't received the disclosure that I've been asking for since October 2018, which was almost 11 months from now.
So you cannot confirm today that you've received all the disclosure.
Not only have I not received it, Mr. Barber hasn't actually responded to my letters.
Okay, so you started out by saying that you agreed with Mr. Barber, but right away you don't agree with him.
Well, mostly.
Well, okay. So,
Mainly I agree with him about the time.
I'm going to run down. Oh, I don't know what you're talking about there, but I'll run down the disclosure thing. Mr. Barber, is that the case? You haven't responded with respect to request for disclosure.
That's absolutely untrue. We dealt with this on the last day as well.
Okay,
Notice how Mr. Barber doesn't have to answer the judge's direct question.
so Dan, what's the deal here?
So from the defense perspective on disclosure up to this point is that Mr. Barber has put me in an extremely difficult position
You're
here.
reading something. I'm just trying.
Yeah.
I don't need you to read something. I need to hear from you.
Okay?
What is it that you're missing? What is it that you say? Because,
Yeah. So
it'll
in-
all get proven at the end of the day. So,
well,
all right.
yeah, but if I can't speak, then you're not going to hear it. Okay? So,
Yes, you can speak, but not read.
yeah,
No, you don't need to read.
Okay, that's fine.
And this is where I was going to refer to the notes on their policy and eventually refer to notes on case law. And I'm not allowed to look at my notes. So it's funny because Mr. Barber has already referred to his notes. If you ever go to court, you'll see pretty much every lawyer in court refer to their notes and read from their notes. And I'm not allowed to look at my notes or read them. Luckily for me, I don't need to rely on notes.
So on the first appearance, October 2018, I provided Mr. Barber with a letter of specific things that I asked for. The specific things that I asked for, as Mr. Barber detailed you earlier, was that I was videotaping.
Yes.
And that was the reasons for my arrest. I was videotaping.
Yes, okay.
So there was more than one camera recording. And there was also photographs and audio recording. I started recording this before the police approached me, and I recorded the entirety of the incident with the police. My statements, their statements, both of our actions. And it wasn't until the police arrested me and seized those devices and terminated those recordings and those that...
You mean terminated? By terminated, you mean ended the recording, stop the recording.
That's correct. So that specifically is my evidence that I have been very eagerly anticipating since the first appearance of October 2018.
So your videotape. You haven't got your videotape.
The devices were seized in July.
You haven't got the devices or the actual video.
Neither. The devices were seized on the date of my arrest, and I've sent Mr. Barber 4 letters.
No, but my question is, are you looking for the devices or the actual video?
Well, the devices, Mr. Barber says devices will not be returned.
Right.
But
I'm sure that's true.
yes, and I'm
Yes.
not asking for the devices. I'm asking for the video clips, the audio, the photographs. The devices were seized.
The actual things that you take.
That's correct. So those,
And you don't have those?
no, I've sent him 4 letters.
Mr. Barber, is that right?
So, Your Honor, I responded in writing almost immediately to Dan, and I won't read through the whole letter word for word, but what I told him was we do not have a warrant to search those devices. We cannot simply access them and copy them and give it to him. He needs to come to court and ask for that or put on the record that that's what he wants to have happen.
Yeah, that's really not how criminal procedure works. If the police catch you filming yourself murdering someone or assaulting someone or stealing something from a business, they'll seize those cameras because they afford evidence of the charges. And that's why they seized my cameras and cell phone. That's what they said in their statements. Those devices afford evidence of the charges. And so the police have to put in a warrant to detain those devices to be presented in court, which they have. And then they have to get another warrant to search those devices and download the clips and photographs and audio and everything. And then organize that to disclose to the accused, and then further organize it to use in a criminal trial for the prosecutor. And I pled not guilty about 11 months prior to this hearing. So they've had 11 months to get a warrant and get all their evidence together. And they haven't done a thing, not a thing, nothing at all. They're relying on me to come to court and waive my right to privacy and consent so that I can use my own evidence as an accused person in a criminal trial in order that I can prove myself innocent. That's what they're waiting to happen. They're waiting for me to do all this so I can prove I'm innocent, so I can actually use my own evidence at my own criminal trial as a self-represented accused. Let that sink in for a minute. That's what they're relying on.
Oh, why don't we just do that today?
That's fine. I have no problem with that. But this is the first time he's raised a complaint.
And of course the judge is like, oh, well, why don't we just, let's wrap that up today. Like, who cares he's not following his own policies and acting in accordance with Canadian case law? Who cares? Let's just wrap this up today. Oh, did you hear that? Mr. Barber just said this is the first time he's raised this complaint. So the first 4 letters, well, that was basically a complaint about not having the disclosure of the videos, right? And how about the previous hearing in front of the previous judge where I further made a complaint about not having the videos? How can this be the first time? This is really the 5th time. I've been asking for this material for almost a year now.
Okay. So, Dan, can we just tie this one up today so you can have those things?
I absolutely hope so.
So what, Mr. Barber, is the Crown requiring to issue from the mouth of Dan here today that would enable the Crown then to go? Please don't do that, Dan.
So I'm holding up the 4 letters that I wrote to Mr. Barber, and the judge wants nothing to do with it. Doesn't care.
So that would enable the Crown to go in and retrieve the video from those devices and give those to Dan, which he clearly needs?
Well, he needs to give us some kind of informed consent and request.
So here's what I suspected was going to happen. I talked about this in part 10. If you want to know more about this, go watch part 10 again, or that part of part 10, where we talk about me having to consent, waive my right to privacy in order to get these videos. I won't go too much into it here, but that's what they're expecting me to do. That's what they're hoping I'm going to do. And then they can wash their hands of this and say, oh no, we did the right thing. He didn't consent. So we didn't, then we dropped the charges. But I've been waiting well over a year now to face my accuser, and I'll let nothing stand in my way. This is kind of scary. I can just imagine somebody with no court experience going in and the prosecutor saying, oh yeah, you can You can give some informed consent for this, and what kind of self-represented accused person is just going to walk in there and be like, oh yeah, I got informed. Yeah, it was my lucky day. The prosecutor helped me out and told me what to say.
And if that's done verbally on the record, I think that's fine. But I will say, also on the record, that Dan wants, in my respectful opinion, confrontation with the police and the Crown. And
Actually, what Dan wants is to go hiking and fishing on his weekends and have a good time. But since you guys dragged Dan into court, Dan doesn't have time for that anymore. So here we are.
So we need to just be very clear today that he's making this request out of his own volition in order to get this material for his defense, and it's not because of pressure or anything like that coming from the Crown or the police.
Oh yeah. This is I'm waiving my right to privacy, and I'm consenting to this. There's no pressure at all. No, I've only been waiting. I've only been asking for this for 11 months now. You guys have had my property for over a year now. Yeah, there's no pressure at all.
I'm just concerned at every step with Dan that things are done on the record and very detailed.
Okay. So, Dan, I only have half an hour for this. I've got to move along. So you're self-represented and that's a concern. Are you with Dan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you taping anything?
No, I'm definitely not.
And it's at this part where I turn around and I laugh. I snickered at my friend who is sitting in the audience there, Mr. Bruce Dean. He's got a YouTube channel called Photo Warrior Fundamental Freedom Fighter. And now the judge is grilling him.
No.
That's not allowed in here.
That's right.
Yeah. I don't know why you would think that I am.
So, Dan, the Crown doesn't have a warrant to search those items but you need that stuff.
I've asked.
And you, and that, and you want that stuff.
I've asked him already 4 times.
So can you say on the record here today, even though you're self-represented?
Yes.
Sir,
Yes.
I need very clear language from you.
Yes.
That you understand that the Crown, that you're asking for this, that the Crown does not have a warrant, and that you are authorizing the Crown and waiving any right to privacy with respect to what's on that stuff, right? Any right to privacy, and in which case, and you have authorized the Crown, then, to download from those items, the video camera and whatever else, the images that you've taken with respect to this alleged incident that occurred on around July 25th of 2018, bearing in mind that when the Crown goes in and downloads it, I don't know if there's something else on there, but it's going to see it. Do you understand all that?
I understand that, Your Honor.
Okay, so I need you to say what I've just said.
Okay.
All right?
So what I'm requesting for disclosure from the Crown is any video clips that were recorded on July 25th, 2018 from the 4 cameras that were seized by Corporal Kundu-Thomsen of the West Shore RCMP.
Okay. And you understand that you're waiving any privacy right that you may have to the contents of those devices?
I understood that in the first 4 letters that I asked.
I know you understand that, but I need you to say that. I need you to say positively that you waive your right to privacy.
I understand that I waive my right to privacy with respect to the videos being downloaded by the RCMP or Crown.
Because you want that material.
I've been waiting since October 2018, Your Honor. Very eagerly.
Does that help you, Mr. Barber?
Yes, Your Honor.
Wait, does that help you, Mr. Barber? She said she was going to help me.
It seems that he is aware now at this point that it's not specific videos that will be downloaded. I don't think we have the capacity to sort of do it in that manner. The things are going to be opened up, they are going to be downloaded, and they are going to be reviewed. We'll disclose whatever is on them, and if he's comfortable with that, then I think we can move forward with that.
And you'll confirm you're comfortable with that.
I'm comfortable. I've been comfortable for 11 months now.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. So we are going to deal with that. So that's going to be done. Can I get a date, maybe, for that to be done?
Oh, yes, Your Honor. I'll have that done. Well, I won't speak. Maybe.
Well, he told the last judge he's given it to me already.
2, but in the next few weeks.
So let's say by, October 3rd at the latest.
Yes,
that's
Your Honor. I'll get that on that right away.
Okay, so let's go on to the next issue, because I've only got 10 more minutes. So those subpoenas that you issued with respect to the 10 members, they're no good now.
That's correct.
You have to reinvigorate those. So, Dan, I I wonder myself if they weren't there.
Well, that's the whole issue with this, Your Honor, is that from what I know, from what the police are relying on and the Crown is relying on, the bulk of the disclosure material, what little I've received, the bulk of the material consists of incidents that happened 4 years ago, 3 years ago, up until a month before my arrest. So all this material that's the bulk of the Crown's disclosure has absolutely nothing to do with this matter that I was arrested for on July 25th, 2018. And if that's the case that the Crown is going to put forward, then I'm going to have to answer full defense. And I'm going to have to rely on the police, the related material police members that are detailed in the bulk of the disclosure.
All right. So, interesting, Mr. Barber.
Yes. Yes.
And that's exactly why I'm being criminally prosecuted. Not because I broke the law on July 25th, 2018. No, here's the real reason. This is the West Shore RCMP's report to the Crown Prosecutors in recommending charges. And it says here, the safety concerns of the members and staff of the West Shore Detachment are very much in mind when an unauthorized person is in or around the detachment with no reasonable explanation. Officers have used their discretion in the past when dealing with the public who were cooperative and not aware of what they were doing. This incident with Dan was different. Given the totality of the circumstances and the historical behaviors displayed by Dan, police are recommending 3 charges. And you'll see here, count 1 is mischief, count 2 is obstruction, and count 3 is a peace bond, which is a restraining order. I was intrigued when I read this because I don't know how they determine who's an unauthorized person to be around or in a detachment. I've seen press reports in the past of people protesting there in large groups and being loud and angry and So I guess those are authorized persons. Those are okay. And I found read something interesting that in this, they say that the officers have used their discretion in the past when dealing with the public who are cooperative and not aware of what they're doing. And basically what they're talking about is they had to tell me about, people who were trying to climb up the building and had weapons on them and were trying to potentially break into the staff cars that were there and had homemade weapons on them and drug paraphernalia and people that were trying to gain access through the main entrance after it was closed and locked and were doing so in a very inappropriate manner. So they're saying that those people cooperated and gave their ID, but I didn't cooperate and I didn't give my ID, and that's why I was arrested, because I didn't cooperate and give my ID. That's what they say. Which is funny because those people that did cooperate and did give their ID, well, they were actually doing something wrong. They were actually on the property. They were actually doing something and had items on them that they weren't allowed to have. Actually. But I wasn't actually on their property, and I didn't actually have any weapons or any drug paraphernalia or anything like that. And I found it really interesting how they write this report to the prosecutors saying that I was an unauthorized person in or around the detachment with no reasonable explanation. How is it that I gave them notice about what I was doing, why, what it was for, and a bunch of other information that I didn't have to give them, but I gave it to them up front, and then they come out and ask me what I'm doing. And I tried to explain what I was doing. And as you remember, the watch commander, the terrorism expert, he kept asking me, and I kept trying to tell him what I was doing, but he kept interrupting me and saying, we're not going to have this conversation. So how can they write this to the prosecutor that I'm an unauthorized person in and around the detachment with no reasonable explanation? And how can they prosecute me for my historical behaviors? How can they do it? Well, you're about to find out. Welcome to part 15. Here we go.
I take it that's all for context, correct?
It's for context. And again, he may want to seek some legal advice about that. I'm not going to get in the way of him
Yes.
subpoenaing people, but Whether
The court
that's
is
going
not
to
going
be
to let you run
helpful.
down each and every one of those. It's just not.
So,
We're not going to have a mini trial.
right, I won't be...
It's just not going to happen.
No, I won't be answering full defense.
So I bet you thought you had the right to defend yourself in a criminal trial, hey? Well, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And this thing that I keep saying here, answer full defense, I'm saying it slightly wrong. It's actually full answer and defense, not answering full defense. This wasn't something that I'd actually thought I'd have to bring up. So, if I considered that it would have been, I would have dusted up on my reading a little before this hearing. But basically what that means, full answer and defense, actually comes from Section 7 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which says the following: right to make full answer and defense. Anyone accused of a criminal charge has the right to know the case against them and put forward a defense. In addition to being a principle of fundamental justice, this right is also protected by the right to a fair trial under Section 11D of the Charter. Quote, full answer and defense, unquote, encompasses a number of things, including the right to counsel, the right to examine witnesses, which is what I'm trying to do, and most importantly, the right to full disclosure by the Crown. Right, so when a prosecutor wants to bring in a bunch of stories from the past, from people's imagination that were fabricated, and tell the judge this, well, guess what? I don't have a right to make full answer and defense.
Well, I don't
I understand.
know about that. All I am telling you is that as a matter of procedure in the court, it is not going to then, even though some things are in for context, it is not going to let you litigate each and every one of those instances through those officers. It isn't. Okay?
I can't answer full defense.
When I first read this transcript, I was actually quite surprised that they transcribed what I just said correctly, where I say, I can't answer full defense. Because I was expecting them to transcribe it with a question mark at the end. Because that's what you would assume I would say. I would be asking a question. I can't answer full defense? But I'm not asking a question. I'm actually telling the judge, I can't answer full defense. I'm telling the judge this. I'm telling the judge how corrupt and unfair the whole system is. And I'm telling her, I can't answer full defense. I'm not asking her. I'm telling her.
It's not going to happen.
Okay, perfect. So I'm not...
I know you keep saying it's not full answer and defense. We don't agree on that, all right? So often things go in as context and we don't track those down. We don't run those through.
Okay.
But in any event...
So I won't be able to...
Well, I think there's a good idea about you speaking to legal counsel, because I don't think you quite understand.
Well, the legal...
What I was actually trying to say is the legal advice, it's actually Mr. Barber that needs the legal advice here.
It doesn't even necessarily go in for its truth, which is why the Crown isn't, which is why the court's not going to run it through, okay?
Well, as I said, Your Honor...
It's you don't get days and days of court time.
No, I don't want days and days of court time.
Yes. Well, you're not going to get them.
This is so funny. I don't want days and days of court time, but the judge is telling me you're not going to get them. You're not going to get them. And it's funny because if you've ever followed like a major court case, like the media is covering or whatever, sometimes like a lawyer or a prosecutor, just to make like submissions, like suggestions for like sentencing, just sentencing alone, that can be like a day or like 3 days in like a very serious matter. So, and that's not even like a trial. That's just like, Your Honor, I suggest that sentencing be this based on this. And that can take a day or 3 days. But me, I won't get days and days. Even though I don't want them, I'm not getting them.
We could have this finished in under a day if the Crown is restricted.
Oh, you've only got a day.
Okay.
So that's something we need to discuss as well, Your Honor.
Don't bother asking me how long the defense is going to be, I guess.
Well, the time's already been set, so presumably somebody's gone through this with you.
That's the Crown's case.
So
no
when
one's
this
asked
was
me.
set for.
No one's asked me how long the defense...
No one's ever asked you what your time estimate is?
No, never.
Never. Okay.
So,
This is
Your
all-
Honor, if
this
I
has
could
all been-
shed some light on
This has
that.
all been set to Mr. Barber's schedule.
Okay.
Mr. Barber, in December, Mr. Barber said he's not back till September 9th, 2019. So I waited 9 months for Mr. Barber to come back on September 9th, 2019. Ironically, today is September 5th, 2019, so thanks for
But he's here by phone.
thanks for coming back early, Mr. Barber.
I don't know what any of that is about, Your Honor.
Well, that's what you told the Justice of the Peace and the JCM here.
Okay.
So thanks for coming back early, Mr. Barber.
Not correct.
So can we just go back
Oh, yeah.
to, can we just go back? So with all of this other material, is somebody going to be walking through that? All of these other instances?
Are you speaking to me, Your Honor?
Yes, I'm talking to you, Mr. Barber, yes.
I had no intention of getting into any of the details of any of the other incidents, but for a very general overview for context purposes.
And is that going to?
Nor would I.
Is that going to state of mind rather than anything else?
Right. State of mind and I.
Right. So not in for the truth of its contents, right?
No.
Yes.
Nor would I be allowed to do that. I don't think.
Now, this is pretty interesting how the prosecutor is trying to get my historical behaviors in on this trial before a trial judge by saying that, well, it's a state of mind. The police knew who he was, and they knew he's got these historical behaviors, which is funny. How can he rely on that when the police readily admit that they had no idea who I was? It wasn't until they arrested me and held me in custody until I ID'd myself that they found out who I was. Then it was state of mind after they read a bunch of imagined stories about me that scared police officers have made. It's been documented.
You would not be.
Now, Mr.
And you'll be limited even in terms of what you get in that regard, you know.
Sure.
I mean, if it goes to character, for example, right?
Sure. No.
It would only go in for state of mind. It's not going in for
Yes.
the truth of it, right? So that's an important distinction.
Now, if Dan opens the door, it's a completely different thing. So that's why I say he should get legal advice. But, Your Honor, as far as the scheduling, we have a day set.
Yes.
And that day was set in order to address basically the Crown's case. That's correct what Dan says, and what the intention was, I think, was if Dan still wants to subpoena 10 or a dozen officers, that a different day should be set for that, so that those officers aren't just sitting around all day waiting to get on the stand or not. Now, by way of background, this has nothing to do with proving our allegations. This has happened before with Dan, as I understand it, where this exact same sort of pattern happened. A number of witnesses were subpoenaed and never called to the stand.
What date was that?
So.
What date was that? What matter was that?
So what I'd like to do,
What date was that? What matter was that?
Your Honor, is get a second.
Never happened.
So, yeah, that's never happened. And Nicholas Barber of Nanaimo Crown Council just fabricated that all on his own. Here he is, misleading yet another judge to try to get a win. An easy win against a self-represented accused who didn't even commit a crime. This is the role of the prosecutor.
Get a second day that then Dan could organize his defense and have those witnesses for that date, and then we would have that on and of its own. We will see what happens on the first day, and whether the trial judge will allow and how much they will allow Dan to get into all of these kinds of things, in sort of a step-by-step way.
So that makes some sense to me, all right? I'm surprised it's going to take the Crown 5 hours to get its case in, but what?
Well, that's
Mr.
with cross-examination, right, by Dan, and I don't know.
But Mr. Barber's suggestion makes good sense to me in the sense that, like I say, you know, these other things that go in for context, not for the truth of their contents, you know. That's evidence that, and it can only go in so far, all right? They can't take issue. They can't raise issues of character and things like that, right? It can't be prejudicial to you. It's got to be strictly so that the court understands or the trial judge understands, you know, why this charge has been proceeded with. And so it makes good sense for the trial judge, then, to speak to you at the end of that evidence and you guys decide, okay, do you really want those other people or, I mean, presumably your arguments are kind of a free speech argument or something like that. Presumably, right? But, and so then? So I like that idea, and I think I will send you off to get another to just sort of reserve another day in the event that you need it, right? But you might not. You might not. You might just decide, nah, I'm going to go with what's here and I'm going to make my pitch, right?
I
Sure.
prefer not to go that route, Your Honor.
But I'll send, but just out of an abundance of caution, I'll send you to the JCM to get one more day. That's a reserve, after the March date in 2020, and if you don't need it, no problem. We fill these days up anyway. I mean, the court's busy, Right, so we fill the days up.
I understand. My biggest issue with that, Your Honor, is that what happened in the past has nothing to do with the day of my arrest.
No, and that's something that you can argue.
Well,
but the trial judge is to be the decider.
Yeah, but
of that. Okay?
the problem with that is what they're bringing up isn't true, and I can prove it. So if they bring it up and I'm not...
Well, that's something you take up with the trial judge.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes, Your Honor. The police have been lying about me for years, about incidents that I video recorded and contradict their statements.
I don't know what the evidence is going to look like, okay?
Okay. Appreciate it.
I really don't. So you take that up with the trial judge and this, so I will send you to the JCM to get one more day after that March date and then the trial judge can make a determination, after having heard submissions,
Sure,
as to where we go after that.
And just...
So that leaves the last issue, and I've got a couple of minutes to deal with that
And yes, I've only got a couple of minutes to insult your clothes, make fun of your clothes, and grill your friend for possibly recording, etc. Only got a couple minutes.
That's
Just...
that the officer who's been transferred to Toronto, or to Ontario, pardon me, can testify by video, and what's your view on that?
Now, I thought this would be a great opportunity to lock in the terrorism expert watch commander that arrested me, Arun Kundu-Thomsen, because not only has he been transferred to Ontario, but they're also trying to make it so that I can't subpoena police officers for the first day of trial. And that's one of the things I've done here is I've subpoenaed Arun Kundu-Thomsen as my witness for the first day of trial. And the reason why I do this is because in a lot of false arrest case, the police just don't show up and then it all gets dropped. Well, if the courts let you subpoena witnesses, you can subpoena the police as your own witnesses for the first day of trial. That way, there's no escape. That way, they have to show up and testify. And if they don't, well, you tell the judge, hey, here's my subpoena. So, Your Honor, would you mind putting out a warrant for their arrest for not showing up for court after being properly subpoenaed? Thanks very much. So with that all being sabotaged by the court, I thought, as I said, this would be a good opportunity to lock him in. So I'm trying to make it clear that he's the most important witness. I'm trying to get this all on the record. So my goal here is to just get him locked in. I'm not too thrilled about him testifying via video from Ontario, but I'm going to have to come up with something and make an issue of that down the road. But for now, my main goal is to lock him in because I'm assuming at this point that what they're eventually going to do is they're just going to say, well, he's not available to testify, so he's not going to be part of the trial. So at least this way, I get him locked in. Because that's, to me right now, at this point in the proceeding, that is the most important part, is that he shows up and he testifies and I get to cross-examine him and ask him questions. So I'm going to go ahead and lock him in.
Corporal Kundu-Thomsen is actually the most important witness for the Crown.
But that does happen. Yes.
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 So as long as he's able to testify, as long as I'm able to cross-examine him, if it's...
Yes.
I don't take any issues with that.
Absolutely. And it happens all the time. Right.
That's fine.
And actually, I can tell you my experiences when they're on video. You get a good look at them and you're not particularly inhibited. So that order that officer testify by video, that's going by consent, Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. And so you're going to get your disclosure?
Thank you.
And I'm going to send you off to get that day so then we can essentially table the issue about your other subpoenas. It gives you lots of time and also it's to your advantage, because you can sort of get the sense of what the case is and whether you need to go that way or whether you want to take another approach. Done.
I certainly hope not.
Okay. So what's the next appearance date on this one?
It is the trial date, Your Honor.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
I think a confirmed trial date, or whatever we are calling them
March 3rd
now,
of 2020?
trial, might be a good idea.
Do you want to do that, Dan, today or?
That would be great. Yes.
You don't think you need another pre-trial? Let's confirm the trial date. If somebody else needs something, you can always come back, okay?
Thank you.
So I'll confirm the trial date today, then, okay?
Well, Your Honor, I'm sorry, I've misspoken. I think another date would be a good idea because I don't want to belabor this, the difficulty with getting the disclosure to Dan. It's only been able to get to him when a police officer served it on him at the courthouse, and so I foresee, Once we get the data from his devices, yet another delay and problem in getting it to him. He's refused it at his door.
That's not true, Your Honor. That's not true. He's lying.
So let's.
He's lying.
Okay. Why don't?
That's not true.
Why don't we tie down?
That's not true.
I don't lie.
Okay, why don't we?
He's lying. Liar, 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 liar. Let's review, shall we? The difficulty with getting disclosure to Dan. Well, he hasn't provided me with any disclosure. We're actually talking about getting that disclosure to Dan right now. It's been 11 months. Dan sent 4 letters. Where the heck is it? You haven't even responded to 3 of the 4 letters. Quote, it's only been able to get to him when a police officer served it on him at the courthouse, unquote. Now here's a very well-crafted lie. You remember in part 13 when I had a hearing in front of Judge Christine Lowe on August 15th, 2019? And I showed up to court telling that judge that I hadn't received a response for my disclosure. And the prosecutor, Nicholas Barber, told that judge that he had responded and that he tried to send it by registered mail. And I refused it. I refused to sign for it. And the RCMP brought it to my home. And I refused to answer my door. You remember that disclosure, right? The disclosure that I called the RCMP about right after I got out of that hearing and asked them, where the hell is this disclosure? And then I drove 20 minutes home. And when I got home, I had a phone call conversation with Corporal Christovell. He said he was only at my residence yesterday and he didn't believe I was home. And then I had agreed to drive 20 minutes all the way back out to where the West Shore Courthouse is to get that, quote, disclosure, unquote, which turned out to be a wild goose chase. It was just 7 pages or 9 pages, something of just repeat material that I had already received. So that is what he's telling this judge, is that the only time the RCMP have been able to get this disclosure to me is when they had to serve it on me when I had a court appearance. Yeah, you remember that time that I had to call them and ask them where the hell is it? And then they called me when I got home and I had to drive 20 minutes back just to get it? Yeah, that was me being served when I had a court appearance. Oddly enough, when I showed up to court for that day on August 15, 2009, the RCMP and that disclosure was nowhere to be found. I had to call to get it and then drive back out there 20 minutes to get it. And I had to arrange all this all on my own.
Why don't we tie down the delivery of disclosure now? Where would you?
I've already worked it.
Where would you? Where would you accept disclosure?
I've already worked it out with the RCMP.
Okay. What is it?
They completely contradicted what Mr. Barber told
What
the
is
court.
I just need to know. What is the delivery?
Well,
How will you get service of this?
They're going to call me.
Okay.
I work 10 hours a day and I'm away from home 12 hours Monday to Friday. So Mr. Barber's suggesting that I refuse to accept this material, that's not consistent with normal human behavior.
I don't have to know about that.
I'm just saying he's lying.
Yes. Okay. Fair enough.
It's pretty funny. This judge, not only does she not care that the prosecutor's lying, she knows he's lied. Like, who cares if he's lying? So what? That's what prosecutors do. Yeah.
But can I just...
I've already worked it out with the RCMP. They know what to do.
Well, no. I mean...
Well, I'd like it on the record, please, Your Honor.
Am I needed more specific? Yes, I do. I do need it to be.
So
what is your understanding of the service?
My understanding, according to Corporal Christovell, is that they will call me at my home phone number, which they've had all along. And that I will return their call because I'm away from home 10 hours a day, Monday to Friday, and I will meet them wherever they would like to meet, preferably at the courthouse, so I don't have to go to the West Shore RCMP detachment where I don't feel safe. And I will drive out from Victoria, where I live, to meet them on the date and time which we arrange ourselves. So here I've decided to cut this part out because the judge, who has only a couple of minutes for this, even though she had time to make fun of my clothes and grill my friend about possibly recording, she's now going on a fishing expedition about my personal life and wants to know some very personal things. So I'm just going to cut this part out and I'll come back to where she's done with her fishing expedition. But West Shore RCMP only made one attempt at my address, according to Corporal Christovell.
Okay. So as I understand it, Mr. Barber, the plan is that Corporal Bell will connect with Mr.
Oh, Dovell.
Okay. Dan by phone, advise that the disclosure is ready. I'll say this, done. You can expect a call well before October the 3rd, but no later than October the 3rd.
Okay, you guys heard it. I can expect a call well before October 3rd, 2019, but no later than October 3rd, 2019.
Okay.
And I expect disclosure to be in your possession before October the 3rd, and if for some reason you've delayed that, I'll know that.
Okay.
And the judge expects the disclosure to be in my possession before October 3rd. And for some reason, if I've delayed that, she'll know it. And I'm like, okay, like your intimidation attempt has completely failed. I can't wait to expose you all.
All right. So there's no reason to delay that. You're anxious to get that material.
For 11 months now.
Okay.
Actually, no, not anxious. Eagerly anticipating.
So, Mr. Barber, as I say, the plan is that the police will call Dan. Dan would then agree with police on a date and time to pick up disclosure. Presumably, it's going to be on the weekend. That means it won't be at the courthouse. You understand that, right?
Well, it could be in the parking lot.
Okay. Well, wherever you decide. I don't think at this point it really matters.
No, it doesn't.
And disclosure will then be given over to Dan, and those individuals will confirm that, presumably. Now, and no doubt somebody will be videotaping something.
No doubt.
And now she's only got a couple of minutes to make a pot shot about someone's going to be recording.
So, okay. So, and as I say, that will be done on or before October the 3rd. I expect it to be done, and I expect there to be no issues with respect to that, okay? There's no point doing anything like that on either side, okay? And then we're going to confirm the trial date, okay, Mr. Barber?
Yes, Your Honor.
And we've tabled the issue. I'm sending Dan and yourself off to get one extra day and, after the trial date if, in the event that it's necessary, okay? And then the issue of whether or not those subpoenas will go will be decided by the trial judge, okay? And I think everybody's ready to go.
Yes.
Should be good.
Good. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Don. Thank you, Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Judge Mrodzinski. Have a good day.
Well, that's how that went. Thanks for your patience, everyone. This took forever to put together, part 14 and this part 15. And thankfully, there's no more lengthy hearings to transcribe. That is, of course, up until when the trial starts. And yes, this did go to trial. You guys are going to see the trial. But that's still a little ways away. There's some stuff that happens before the trial that you guys are not going to believe. And if I just told you what happened, you wouldn't believe me, and you have to see it to believe it. So stay tuned for part 16. It's coming sometime in April 2021. Thanks for watching.
The person at extension 370 is not available to take your call. Please leave a message after the tone.
Hello, this message is for Corporal Christovel. It's Dan. So we had a pretrial in court today with Crown Nicholas Barber and Judge Lisa Mersnowski. According to Mr. Barber, you guys can't follow through on a warrant to search my 4 cameras to provide me with my own evidence for a criminal trial. So congratulations. I wonder how that's going to reflect on you guys, that you can't get a warrant to back up your allegations against me. It truly reveals the level of high-handedness on your part. So in order to get my own evidence that you guys can't even get a warrant for, I had to consent to the search and release of my own evidence. I guess if you can't back up your own allegations the way police normally operate and enforce the laws the proper way with a warrant, then I guess I have no choice. I've been waiting very eagerly for this material for over a year now, so I guess it's on me to provide that evidence to the courts, since you guys are not capable of doing so that I can prove I'm innocent. All right? So on the record today, I consented to the search and disclosure of my 4 cameras. I did not consent to the search of my cell phone. So if you want to search my cell phone, you will in fact have to get a warrant for that. Judge Mersnowski ordered Mr. Barber to provide me with this material no later than October 3rd, 2019. So what you'll need to do is phone my home. Phone number is to leave me a voicemail and we can meet up somewhere.
Just going to leave out my personal schedule here.
So just randomly showing up isn't going to work. And Judge Mersnowski is aware of this in great detail.
Just going to leave out my personal schedule here.
Other than that, if you guys, I would strongly suggest you get a warrant just to cover your own asses. But if you can't do it, then that just kind of proves the level of high-handedness. So go ahead, don't get a warrant. See how that works out for you guys. I've also left this message for Staff Sergeant Greg Pask and Staff Sergeant Raj Sandhu. Hopefully between the three of you guys, we can come together and get this disclosure to me ASAP, as soon as possible. Thank you, sir. Take care. Have a good day. So after leaving that message for the 3 RCMP members, I decided to call back after not hearing from anyone for approximately 3 weeks. So 20 days later, on September 25th, 2019, I decided to call. So whenever I'm recording or documenting something like this, I always try to ask the person on the other end of the phone if they have a calendar in front of them and if they could verify today's date. Here's that call.
Welcome to West Shore RCMP. It's transferring to an attendant. One moment, please. Hi. Afternoon, West Shore RCMP switchboard.
Oh, hi there. I'm looking to get in touch with Staff Sergeant Greg Pask.
Oh, Sergeant Pask is no longer here.
Oh, okay.
I can put you through to Staff Sergeant Sandhu.
Yeah, sure. And do you have a calendar?
Okay.
Do you have a calendar in front of you? Is today September 25th?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, sure. I'll speak to Staff Sergeant Sandhu. Thank you.
Just a moment.
September 25th.
Staff Sergeant Sandhu.
Hi, sir. It's Dan calling.
Corporal DeVell would be the person you want to talk to if you're looking for anything from Sergeant Pask.
Welcome to West Shore RCMP. It's transferring to an attendant. One moment, please. Morning, West Shore RCMP switchboard.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm actually looking for Corporal Chris DeVell.
Just a moment.
Thank you. She said good morning, but it's afternoon.
Corporal DeVell speaking.
Hi, sir. It's Dan calling. How are you?
Oh, good. How are you?
I'm good, sir. I'm just calling. I wonder if you could give me an update on the disclosure that I've been waiting for just 3 weeks shy of a year now. I believe I left you a message about 3 weeks ago about Judge Lisa Mersnowski ordering the disclosure by October 3rd. So I'm just wondering if you guys have made any sort of attempt to drop that off or connect with me at all.
Yeah, so we got some direction from the Crown there, Paul Cheeseman.
Who?
So it's currently, we have to vet some of the material, because there was parts there that were protected police material or other private material.
Take notes, folks. He just said there's protected police material or other private material. So I was only out in public. So what the heck is protected police material and other private material doing out in public? What are they talking about? Oh yeah, wait till you guys see what they edited out of my videos that say is police protected material and other private material.
Okay.
So what you're going to get is there will be the download of the recordings and photos, so the videos and photos.
Okay.
Any material that has to be vetted will be, and then you'll get a copy of the electronic download. The downloads have been completed. They're just being reviewed by, there's like basically a vetting part of the RCMP that does that. They're supposed to complete that by the end of the week and disclosure by the 3rd. I'm hoping it'll be available for you by tomorrow or Friday, though.
Oh, okay.
And I can meet with you and provide you that material.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I'm driving.
And, the other thing to note too.
Sure.
You indicated you withdrew your consent for the cell phone.
Oh yeah. Well, I never gave it. It's not that I withdrew it. I never gave it.
Okay. So the material you're going to receive does not include anything from the cell phone, because we talked to Mr. Cheeseman about that and said,
Cheeseman?
He's indicated he never consented to that, so it's going to be excluded until we are given more information. So it's just so you know, where we have not examined the phone.
Okay. I'm assuming you've got Mr. Cheeseman and Mr. Barber confused?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, he was. I meant Mr. Barber.
Yeah, because
Mr.
Mr.
Cheeseman, he's the local guy at Colwood, sir.
Yeah, Paul Cheeseman, the local guy out here. The guy who originally got this file dropped in his lap and read the name of the accused and said, "Oh, I ain't touching anything with this guy's name on it." Paul Cheeseman probably thought to himself, "I can't get involved in maliciously prosecuting Dan again. Not after Dan put out a 7-part series on YouTube about us crooked prosecutors misleading judges in order to get wins." Yep, I bet that's what he was thinking.
Right. Sorry, I meant Nicholas Barber.
Yeah, because Mr. Cheeseman would be a huge conflict of interest.
Oh, okay. You've dealt with him on something. Okay, not a problem.
Well,
it's Nicholas Barber. That's what I.
Yeah, no, I've nailed Mr. Cheeseman publicly on misleading judges.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's all.
Oh, okay. So yeah, this is what a RCMP police officer, this is how he reacts upon finding out that there's a prosecutor misleading judges.
All well in hand. And the reason for the delay, we would have had you sooner, but the person that does the video editing, or that is, he was on vacation, and this was the first opportunity he could do what he needed to do. So
Okay, so if I can give you my schedule here real quick.
yeah.
Just gonna leave out my personal schedule here.
Okay.
So, let me check on the status. I've got your phone here,
And
so I can call you back. And I'm just hoping we can just make this work for tomorrow. That'd be best case.
And I do have one more question before I let you go.
Mm-hmm.
Can the video be vetted, but can the audio be disclosed?
I actually don't believe there's any editing of the audio. I'd have to confirm that with some of the directions given.
Okay, because I'm gonna make a big stink about that if I don't get the audio from that.
Yeah, I don't think there's the part that's vetted is not the officers, because they'll be just as they were recorded. That's fine. Your interaction with the police is not going to be part of this vetted. It's other like children.
Children. So when he says children, he means that one kid and his mother that were walking out the door when I walked out the door, and I aimed my camera away from them.
And like other people coming and going from the police station, and like things like within like a secure area. So
Okay.
License plates of unmarked police cars or staff members, that sort of thing.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about.
People coming and going from a police station are protected material. License plates of unmarked police cars are protected police material. Police staff members are protected police material.
And
Well, as I said, after I got arrested and I was taken into custody, there was still a video camera recording. But the audio from that, I absolutely need that.
Yeah, it's I don't believe that's not the instructions that were given in terms of the vetting. It's complete just to anything that's like I said, a child or a person coming and leaving the police station, or something that would be in a secure area that we can't have like a license plate of, say, like an unmarked police car. Or
Right.
That's the sort of stuff we had to vet out. But the actual conversation or your arrest before or after, that's relevant. Some staff member at a detachment,
I see.
it won't show their plate anymore. And
Okay.
that was a concern. And same thing like with say a potential victim or witness or a child leaves the police station. It's like,
I see.
their face or something that's being vetted. I haven't reviewed all the material in its entirety. That wasn't my role.
No,
So
I understand.
I don't know if you have a conversation with some sort of person in the public or like a child or something. I don't think you would have, but maybe, I don't know if that's in there.
Well, I was out in public, so.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's I'll give you a call and see if we can get the material for you
Okay.
tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I
All
appreciate.
right. We'll be in touch, and hopefully we can meet tomorrow then.
I appreciate your time, sir.
Okay. Take care.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye now.
So as we all know, that phone call happened on September 25th, 2019. That means the West Shore RCMP have 1 week to get me my videos. As you'll recall, Judge Lisa Merznowski said I can expect a call well before October 3rd. and that she expects that I'll have that material in my hand before or on October 3rd, 2019. And don't forget, Judge Lisa Mersnowski specifically told me if I do anything to delay that, she'll know about it. You guys remember that threat, right? I wonder if the RCMP delay it, will she know about it? Oh no, I don't think so. And it was around this time that I thought that I should look into how I'm going to serve the defendant, Arun Kundu-Thomsen, his lawsuit so he can pay for what he did to me, for my damages, so that hopefully the taxpayers don't have to pay for it, so that you don't have to pay for it. Do you want to pay for his misconduct, for his criminal actions? Do you want to pay for it? So he's fled the province to Ontario, about 2,000 kilometers away. So I'm going to have to look into how I'm going to serve him. And I started to make some phone calls. And here is a phone call. Here's some bonus material I thought you guys would like. I didn't know this when I was recording this, but this is how you hire a process server out of province. And spoiler alert, after making several calls, this was one of the few people that would actually talk to me about this for a few minutes.
Good afternoon, Cooper Legal Services.
Hi there, my name is Dan, and I'm calling long distance from British Columbia. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. Just have a general inquiry.
All right.
I have a filed small claims action here in British Columbia against a member of the RCMP who has recently fled British Columbia to the Ottawa area.
Okay.
Do you guys do process service in that kind of situation?
Absolutely, we do.
Oh, wow. Excellent.
Do we have an address for him?
Well, no. No.
Okay. Are you calling on behalf of the law firm?
I am not, no.
Okay, then we can't. We're able to do some searches, but we do have to have authorization from an accredited law firm.
Okay.
So if you happen to retain one, they can contact us and produce the search for us.
Okay.
And then we can get a home address from. But without that, we may be stuck.
Okay, that seems to be consistent throughout your profession.
It's not an agreement with us. It's an agreement with the MTO that we do have to have an accredited law firm on letterhead with the request for authorization for searches on addresses.
Fair enough. I wouldn't want you to do anything you're not supposed to.
Yes. They do come hard down hard, the government.
Yeah. What about if you just knew or suspected where the person worked?
We can attempt. That being said, getting into RCMP headquarters is somewhat difficult. We can certainly do it.
Yeah.
They tend to not give out very much information, so it would kind of be a look at the draw situation.
Yeah.
They won't give us any hours or anything like that, and if he's on the road, they won't tell us where either.
Yeah.
So it's possible, but not very likely that would work.
Okay. Would you suggest maybe, and I know you can't give legal advice, would you suggest maybe that I go to the court registry and ask for alternative methods of serving?
Yeah, actually, that'd be a great idea.
Okay. Thank you for your help, sir. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Take care.
You as well.
Bye. Yes, I don't know what I'm going to do this weekend. Yeah, maybe, God, sure would love to. Oh, wait. Oh, we're still making this video? This video's still going? Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so, so it was around that time I was still waiting, and it's now October 1st, 2019, and I haven't heard from the RCMP at all. Nothing. They're supposed to have this. I could expect a call well before October 3rd, remember? And October 2nd goes by. No phone call. And October 3rd, I get up, I go to work, no phone call. And very later that day, I come home from work and there's a voicemail. Here's that voicemail.
New message 0848 sent by unknown caller.
Just so you know, unknown caller is almost always the police or RCMP.
Message for Dan, Corporal Deval, West Shore RCMP. It's currently October 3rd, about 8:45. Just wanted to let you know I've been in contact with Nick Barber, the Crown Counsel. There is a delay in redacting the video and other materials, so they're getting an extension on that to have materials available for you. So we will have a new date to have that disclosed. Just want to let you know about the delay, and we'll be talking soon. Take care.
So that's the phone call, according to Judge Lisa Mersnowski, that I could expect well before October 3rd. Oh, wait, that's not the phone call I could expect. Where's the phone call that I could expect well before October 3rd, 2000? This isn't the phone call I could expect. This is the RCMP defying a judge's orders that I could expect. And you remember how Mr. Barber's like, oh, it sure is hard getting this disclosure to Dan. And I'm like, well, he hasn't even responded. And now they've defied a judge's order to disclose that material by a certain date, October 3rd, 2019. So here we are. That's it. What's it going to take to get this material? I guess you'll find out in part 17, which is coming sometime soon. Thanks for watching.